And when your behaviors don't match what you say the values of the company are, they know your culture's crap. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah. So how do you scale? Like, what would be your recommendation if someone's like, I have a decent culture, right? I'm a doctor. I have one practice or two practices, and I spend time around my team, but I want to scale it. I want to grow it, and I want to go to 10 practices or 20 practices. What would be some recommendations that you would talk about on that side?
Yeah, the first thing, and Josie and I have seen this now in working. We've worked with over $1 billion in dental revenue now, and we see the same thing over and over again. And the first thing that we see is that the culture's a facade, and they don't actually practice what they preach. And I did it too. I was pure in this. But your team, they're not idiots. Like a lot of them are actually IQ wise smarter than you. They've just made different life choices. So when you think you're fooling them, and when your behaviors don't match what you say the values of the company are, they know your culture's crap. It's not going anywhere. So that's the first thing, Gary, is that we really have to own and practice what we've preached and said in there. Second thing is less is more. Relative, like, because a lot of people try to build this like super complex. We have 974 core values that we define our behaviors by. No, less is going to be more, fewer things that we're more clear about how we exemplify them and how we don't. That's a really big deal. The third thing I would say, Gary, is being a broken freaking record. We've seen the data
Yeah.
points. We've all heard the thing that people don't, we can say something 9 times before they absorb it. My joke is that, yeah, that might be for women. Men's probably like 18 times before they actually absorb it. But true story, we never, like, our values didn't change. And we would have every quarter we did a company address via video where I talk about where we started, where we are, where we're going. I always reaffirm the values. One of my longest standing team members had been with me for like 7 years at the time, had heard this core value speech probably 2 dozen times, right?
Oh man.
And we get there, she's like, "Hey, Dr. Roman, I love the new core values." I'm like, what? Like, what do you mean the new core values? And she's like, "The new core values are so good. It really resonates with me now. I'm like, you know, I just dropped it. It took so many times for them to actually soak in, right? And then, so just being a broken record. And you know what? We actually have stories in our lives, Gary, about how we don't want to be broken records, how we shouldn't have to repeat
Yeah.
ourselves. I
Yep.
told you once, you should have remembered it.
Yep.
No, that doesn't match human behavior in our
Correct.
brains. And so the way I viewed it is my job as CEO was to be a broken record champion for the vision, the values, and the strategy that we were going to take to get there, which brings me to my last. Isn't this cool? I just busted these out, Gary.
It's really good.
I didn't even know you were going to ask me that. The
Write a book.
fourth one,
You're right around
the fourth
company
one is we
around
have
it.
to,
You guys kill it.
golly, dang, this is working. The fourth one is we have to reward around our values. That was a really big thing that we like to skip. We have to sit there and acknowledge when people are exemplifying our culture. We have to acknowledge it and be really specific about it. So what we tended to do is we're like, "Hey, congratulations to Gina. She just did a new CE." Nuh-uh. "Hey, Gina, living the culture, continuing education, you are exemplifying our growth value. Thank you so much for doing that. And like, here's how we're going to reward that. And so every week inside of our companies, we would do core value call outs that were shared across the whole company that continued to beat into people's minds what those behaviors really were, because we had to live it. So what do you think of those, Gary?
Those are really amazing, amazing.